Hello dear viewers, myself Nasir and you're watching Mr.Zoologist YouTube channel. Today we are going to discuss about plant growth and development. We will elaborate it in detail. All plant cells are descendants of the zygote, means to say plants are the result of fertilization in which sperm and egg unite and zygote is formed. The zygote develops into a mature plant through growth and differentiation, forming roots, leaves, branches, flowers, fruits, and seeds. Then they eventually die. Means to say, when a seed is sown in a soil, it grows, it differentiates into different structures of a plant, like roots, which are underground, leaves, branches, flowers, fruits, and seeds from which new plants again can grow. So, after reaching its maximum age, that plant dies again. So, plant growth, we are going to discuss it first. Uh, Growth is an irreversible, permanent increase in size of an organ or its parts or an individual cell. Means to say, when one part is grown, when one part has done its growth, then it cannot be returned to its initial stage. It can done its growth more and more, but it cannot be returned or reversed back towards its initial shape. So growth is irreversible, cannot be returned, cannot be reversed, cannot go back to its initial position. It involves metabolic processes that consume energy. Means to say, in growth, energy is utilized for the purpose of growth. When one thing has to increase in size, it needs energy. It needs metabolic pathways and metabolic activities to produce energy for that growth. Plant growth generally is indeterminate. Determinate is what in which fate of a growing organ is known. When the fate of a growing organ is unknown, then that type of growth is called indeterminate. Plant growth continues throughout the life due to the presence of meristems. Meristematic cells have the capacity to divide and self-perpetuate. Self-perpetuate means to say it has ability to invade itself, to increase its size by its own. The growth where new cells are always added to the plant body by the activity of the meristem is called open form of growth, means to say where can easily cells penetrate and grow in number. So that is plant growth occurring in the meristems. You can see in the diagram also, and also in the apex of the shoot and root. So primary growth, it occurs due to root apical meristems and shoot apical meristem. It causes the elongation of plants along their axis. Means to say, if a plant is growing along the tips, either from the shoot tip or either from the root tip, at the end points. If a plant is growing at the end points, then it is called as primary growth. Means to say, it is extending its length. What is secondary growth? It occurs due to lateral meristems, vascular cambium and core cambium. When the thickness of the stem increases of a plant, then it is called as secondary growth. When the branches increases, when the diameter of the stem increases, then it is called secondary growth. These causes the increase in the girth of the organs. Means to say, the diameter of the plant widens in the secondary growth. Next is growth is measurable at cellular level. At cellular level, a growth can be measured. It is measurable. Increase in protoplasm is difficult to measure directly. Means to say, we cannot measure the increase in protoplasm. Protoplasm is all inside the cell membrane or cell wall of a plant, which can be measured, like fresh weight, dry weight, length, area, volume, and cell number. What is cell number? A maize root apical meristem can produce more than 17,500 new cells per hour. Cells in a watermelon may increase in size by up to 350,000 times. Growth of a pollen tube can also be measured, like how much it has developed. Next, surface area growth in a dorsal ventral leaf can also be measured. Means to say how much leaf is extended. We can measure it. It is a measurable quantity. And next we're going to discuss about phases of growth. First is meristematic phase. It occurs in the meristems at the root apex and the shoot apex. Means to say at the tips that cells are present, meristematic cells, and they cause the primary growth. And large nuclei is also present in this area. Cell walls are primary. We means to say they are compulsory in every plant cell. Thin and cellulosic with abundant plasmodesmata. Plasmodesmata are the adjacent ports between the two cells. So these structures are primary components of this phase. Next is elongation phase. It occurs in cells proximal, just next away from the tip, just below from the tip is elongation phase. It occurs in cells proximal. This zone is called meristematic zone. Cells have increased vacuolization, means to say here vacuoles develop in the center. Size and new cell wall deposition also occur there. Third is maturation phase. It occurs in the cells farther away from the apex, and the cells attain maximal size in terms of wall thickening and protoplasmic modifications. Means to say their stem growth is much more. There is more developing organization. Cellular organization also developed well here. Here different types of cells conducting and strengthening tissues are formed. So we can detect zones from the following stem, that at the tip is fruit is present, and whereas all the central cells is called here, from the top to the bottom, from the apex of the root to the shoot, the smallest distance below comes to elongation phase, whereas in the center becomes a maturation phase, from where a plant matures. Growth rates. It is increased growth per unit time. The growth rate may be arithmetic or geometrical. What do you mean by arithmetic? In this following mitotic cell division, only one daughter cell continues to divide while the other differentiates and matures. Only one is dividing while the others are not dividing, they are just maturing. On plotting the length of the organ against time, a linear curve is obtained. As you can see in the graph, that a straight line is obtained, which indicates that only one cell is dividing while the others are just differentiating. So next is arithmetic graph. Geometrical graph. We have discussed arithmetic. Now it is time for geometrical growth or graph. Here both daughter cells continue mitotic cell division from male and female. In most systems the initial growth is slow, means to say lag phase. Then it increases rapidly, then it is called log or exponential phase. If nutrient supply is limited, the growth slows down, leading to stationary phase. Here in stationary phase no growth or death occurs. The generation becomes constant. On plotting the parameter of growth against time, we get a sigmoid curve. Sigmoid curve, which means to say where one is increasing, at the same time it becomes straight, and then it becomes moving downward. That is called sigmoid curve. A sigmoid curve is a characteristic of living organisms growing in a natural environment. It is typical for all cells, tissues, and organs of a plant. Means to say sometimes they are growing, sometimes they are not growing, and sometimes they are dying. When they are growing, the rate of reproduction is fast, and the generation is increasing continuously. And sometimes generation becomes constant, and that phase is stationary phase. And when they start dying, then becomes the lag phase. And exponential growth can be expressed as w1 is equal to w naught into e or raised to power rt, where w1 is final size, weight, height, number, etc. W naught is initial size at the beginning of the period. R is growth rate here. T is equal to time of growth. Here R is relative growth rate. It is also a measure of the ability of plant to produce new plant materials, like its efficiency index, how much efficient a plant is, how much it can show growth. Hence final size W1 depends on initial size. Quantitative comparisons between growth can also be made in two ways. One is absolute growth rate and second is relative growth rate. Measurement and comparison of total growth per unit time is called absolute. It means to say that how much actual growth it can do. Next is relative growth rate, measurement of growth of the given system per unit time expressed on a common basis. Means to say per unit initial parameter we can compare, we are comparing length of one plant with that of the other. That is relative growth rate. Conditions for growth: water for elongation, turgidity of cells helps in extension growth. Water provides medium for enzymatic activities needed for growth. Oxygen, it helps to release metabolic energy for growth, means to say that is involved in the metabolism, in which catabolism and anabolism occurs. Breakdown and formation of larger from smaller, smaller from larger occurs. Nutrients, macro and macro elements are needed for the synthesis of protoplasm and act as source of energy. Means to say nutrients are essential for proper growth of a plant as well as development of a plant. Temperature, plants have an optimum temperature at which growth is maximum. Every cell or every enzyme works at a absolute temperature. That temperature is called Optimum temperature, here growth is maximum. Deviation from this range could be detrimental to its survival. Means to say the death can occur if the temperature range is not according to its narrow range. Next is lighting gravity affect certain phases stages of growth where light is essential just for the if we consider for the sake of minerals or nutrients for the plants. Light is compulsory for the process of photosynthesis. So that was all topic we have discussed today. We will meet you in the next video. Till then, peace out.